put up on our website for others who can't join us at the specific time to view it later. I also want to extend my thank you again to the faculty and staff and students as we are going through this very unprecedented time on our campus and responding to things almost hourly as they come up. Next slide. So what I want to do today is update you on some of the timelines and closure and remote operations. Talk a little bit about what to expect after the governor's stay home, stay healthy order is lifted, and in the period between before we are allowed to fully reopen, which right now is April 27th. I want to encourage you all to complete the survey, and I'll talk a little bit about that, share some of the cleaning and safety concerns that we're hearing, and then talk a little bit about the federal funding and policies that just came out in the new stimulus package that we think are going to benefit our students. And then share with you some of the things that we just don't have answers to right now, but we continue to get questions about. And then we will have time at the end for questions and answers. So let's get to it. Next slide, please. So I'll preface this by saying that we continue to hear from the governor that he may extend some of these timelines. So that's a caveat that what we know right now is these dates are the dates. But if the governor makes some changes, then of course all of this will have to shift. So for right now, all K-12 and higher education institutions are only allowed to do remote instruction and are to be closed until April 24th. And there were some exceptions for higher education to do online remote instruction and to do some administrative functions. The governor has a shelter-in-place order called Stay Home, Stay Healthy. That is right now scheduled to end on April 6th, and that would give us a little bit more flexibility in what can be open after April 6th. And of course, all of this overlaps with our quarter, which begins April 6th. So next week, April 6th, we are expecting faculty that will be non-instructional time. Our faculty will be working with our e-learning team and others to get their courses online and ready for remote instruction. And then that remote instruction will begin the following week. So that is when students will be expected to be enrolled in their classes. Next slide. So given these overlapping dates, what can we expect at Seattle Central between April 6th and April 27th? The majority of us are going to continue to work from home. So the campus will still be closed to the public. And we are not opening the doors to the public. So faculty and staff can come in and get limited access to the things that they need to get their work online or work remotely. And we will have some limited core functions open in the building, like security facilities, some IT services, and then we will have some very limited student services available, especially computer access for those who don't have access to technology, some financial aid, enrollment services, and cashiering. But again, very limited core function. We know that there are some faculty who are working on how best to deliver their courses, which require the face-to-face instruction. And we have a list of those on our webpage. On March 31st, we put those courses up there that will have the limited face-to-face interaction. But we fully expect that all courses, except for those that began online, will continue online for the entire quarter. So we are not expecting that after April 27th that we would go back to full face-to-face instruction. And because of the uncertainty about dates, we have made the decision that those courses that start online will stay online. Faculty, as they are working next week, will iron out some of those details and will be in touch with students in their classrooms about what to expect in those courses, because faculty, every individual faculty is working on their course and will be able to answer questions about the timing. So someone asked if my course is offered at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, if it was scheduled to be 10 o'clock on Tuesday, is it still 10 o'clock on Tuesday with the online option? Faculty will be working on answering those questions next week. So students, make sure that you are monitoring messages from your faculty and communication from your faculty so that you know what to expect. Next slide. I mentioned that there will be limited student services available. So, but those, we're trying to do those by appointment only. And we are highly encouraging students to do those things online. And we have put up on our webpage contact information for all of our student services offices and a contact person for those offices. We also have a chat function. So if you have questions about how to access online services or get appointments, you can use that function as well. But the coronavirus page on our website is full of a lot of information for students and for others in terms of what you can expect to be open and how to get help for registration, financial aid, and other enrollment services. Cashiering will be open with limited service, as I say, and we'll have line protocols for social distancing for the cashiering. We know that there are some people who, for whatever reason, must pay in cash. We have, though, provided additional instruction for how to pay online. We really want folks to, if you can at all, pay online so that you don't have to come into campus. So those directions are on our webpage along with the tutorial. So please use that if that applies to you. Our libraries are closed, but it will open its computer stations for students who don't have internet access through any other means. So 10, but with very limited hours. So from 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, students will be able to access the library and computer stations. If you have library items that are outstanding or are due now, don't worry about them. We will not be assessing fines, and when the library reopens, you will be able to return those materials. There are a number of things that have changed in terms of our academic calendar. So we encourage students to use their MyCentral login to go and look at the critical dates section, and that's where the academic calendar is. And you can see all the changes and the dates that are relevant to drop ads, when you can withdraw, what the last date for getting refunds are. So that calendar is there for you, and you can get access to it by logging into your MyCentral account. Next slide. As mentioned earlier, we know that there are many folks who do not have technology or internet access at their homes. So we have been working with our staff and faculty to get those things in their hands. And we are doing a survey, and that will be going out shortly to you all to get a better sense of who needs assistance with technology. We will have some very limited supplies of Chromebooks, webcams, hotspots, and other things available, but limited supplies. As you can imagine, every college and university in the country is trying to get access to the same things. So the supply is very limited, and although we have ordered some, we do not have them yet. We don't have them yet. So you will be seeing that survey shortly, so please respond to that. And then we will work on a process once we get that, the survey results, on how to distribute that technology to those who need it most. And just a reminder that we do have, as I mentioned, limited access to our library computers for those students who do not have internet access through any other means. Next slide. So as we are opening up, both with the core functions and then even after April 27th, we know that there continue to be concerns about safety. I should say that our buildings are clean and safe now. We are following all of the environmental health and safety and public health guidelines for cleaning our buildings. As we begin to open up access to the campus, we plan to keep track of where folks are in the buildings and then follow behind them and clean frequently. So facilities and security are working out a protocol for as folks are coming into the building and to let us know where you are. We're limiting access where it's not going to be full access so that we can come behind people and clean as they are coming through the building. And we are also, as students are coming into the building, we are setting up hand washing stations so that everyone who comes into campus will be expected to wash their hands and practice social distancing. So even as we are setting up cashiering, for example, protocols, we will make sure that people are at least 6 feet apart as they are waiting for services on the campus. And we know that this disease is still out in our community, so we want to be as careful as possible in protecting our staff. And I do want to remind staff that if you have concerns about being in a vulnerable category, that you should communicate that to HR or to your supervisor so that we are not expecting you to come in if you feel like your health is at risk or you're in a vulnerable category. Next slide. So there was some good news that came out earlier this week with the federal stimulus package. That package provided additional funding to support student emergency needs and additional financial aid. So I should also mention that our college foundation is raising money to provide emergency funding to students as well. And they just this morning announced that they have raised over $100,000 as a part of their campaign to help students. And they are continuing to raise funding and have a $500,000 goal. But the federal money is really going to help us significantly. There's also institutional funding to support us to help support the college with COVID-related costs. And that's where we're going to use some of that money to purchase Chromebooks and technology as it is available. There were some policy changes that have been made, many of them, and they're too complicated for me to even explain, but I think that the most relevant ones are that Pell Grants, that if a student has gotten a Pell Grant and they have to withdraw or they can't complete the term for whatever COVID-related emergency, it will not be counted towards their annual limit. So that is really helpful to students. There's also a lot of more flexibility in how federal work study and other federal financial aid can be used to support students during a crisis. So things that we couldn't do before, we will now be allowed to do with federal work study money, for example. And we know that that will help students who are recipients of federal work study. Next slide. And so as I said with the dates and with the virus, there are a lot of things that we just don't know, and the information continues to change. It seems hourly, but I'm sure it's just daily, but these days are long, and it does seem like information changes frequently. So the number one question that I am getting now is, will summer quarter also be remote, or can we go back to face-to-face instruction? I think that depends on where we are in the coronavirus crisis. If we continue to see new cases and the governor extends the time for which we are expected to not deliver any face-to-face instruction, then we would make decisions. Hold on a moment. So sorry about that. My husband is talking in the background. That's one of the advantages or disadvantages of working at home. People start talking when you're talking. So I was saying that the number one question is whether summer quarter will be remote or face-to-face, and that depends on how the virus is doing in our community and what the governor is doing. The other question that we can continue to get is commencement is scheduled for June. and will we cancel that? And we are waiting to see what happens with the governor's order, especially what he does next week with the Stay Home, Stay Healthy. And we will make a decision on how to modify or cancel commencement within the next 10 days. So stay tuned for that. And then I guess the big question that we all have is, you know, we're expected to start instruction April 13th. What happens if the Stay Home, Stay Healthy order is extended beyond April 6th, or the April 27th timeline is extended through June or into the middle of May, as we're hearing it might be? We just don't know. So we are starting to do some contingency planning now for instruction. But because most of our classes will be online and we are planning for most of that remote instruction, we don't expect too many disruptions, except for those courses where face-to-face is required for accrediting purposes or for you know, clinical hours, for example. So we are working with the deans and the faculty to come up with contingency plans if we have to extend the Stay Home, Stay Healthy order or the April 27 timeline. For many of our employees, things will, if those dates are extended, we will just continue as we're doing now. And that is working from home and trying to deliver services remotely to our students as to the best of our ability. So next slide. So thank you all for tuning in. And we are trying to provide you as much information as we have. And just a reminder that this session is being recorded and that we're gonna, now the panelists, I'm joined by the 3 vice presidents and the director of human resources, and we will answer questions as they have come in. So some of the questions that I'm seeing is, will student services be made available, such as TRIO and disability services? Yes, so those services are all being offered remotely. On our website, there is a list of contacts for each one of those programs. Dr. Harden, is there anything else that you would like to say about the student services that are available?
Thanks, President Ridgelang. No, so we'll continue with remote. Staff are there. They're helping students as we go and as they have for the past couple of weeks. And other than limited appointments for financial aid, admissions, or registration, all other student services will continue to offer services remotely.
Okay. And so one of the questions is, what website can the face-to-face classes be found at? On our homepage, if you click on our coronavirus section of our website, there is a March 31st update, and the list of classes is found there. And how will students buy their books for the quarter? Dr. Harden, would you, or I think that may actually be Lincoln who has the answer to the bookstore question.
I think I can.
That information was mailed out, but Lincoln?
Yeah, the bookstore is, if you have a home address, they are fulfilling orders starting this week and shipping them to your home address. If you need to pick it up at the bookstore, starting the morning of the 13th, they will have limited hours for basically handoff of your orders at their front door. We're working out the procedures for that, but we'll have an announcement out shortly. But yes, they will have the ability, if you do not have a home mailing address to ship books to, they will have the ability to make an appointment to pick up your books at the bookstore. Great.
The funds from the foundation, will they be available to undocumented students and international students? The answer is yes to the undocumented students. I'm not sure about the international students. I would have to check on that. But I see there's a contact in there. We can actually get the answer to you for about international students. There are some restrictions on how international students can access financial aid, I know, but my understanding is the foundation funding is a little bit more flexible. And so as we are raising that money, we will get an answer to that for international students. And I'm not sure I'm understanding the question about does that include incomplete? And that may be relevant to the Pell Grant flexibility question that was that I talked about. So my understanding is if a student has to withdraw and take an incomplete due to something coronavirus related, then there will be flexibility in both loan repayment and Pell Grants. And my assumption with this question is a student may have to take an incomplete because of a coronavirus illness or something to that nature. So yes, there would be a lot more flexibility for students in that situation. Tell me the conditions that students need to withdraw from courses. So Dr. Harden, is that something that you can address?
Oh, I'm sorry, Sheila, your audio was broken up for me. Can you repeat the question?
Okay.
About.
Oh, the question.
Sorry.
I believe that the question was about conditions needed to withdraw from courses.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Like, maybe I don't understand the question. So special conditions or exceptions?
The question was, could you please tell me in what condition do students need to withdraw from courses?
So maybe assuming that if someone is ill and they need to withdraw from courses, is that the question? And I think that is communicating that to your faculty and then doing the work as needed with enrollment services to withdraw.
Oh, okay.
And there is a process.
Yes. So the president's correct. It would be communicating with your faculty, but also following the withdrawal process. And the dates are up on the website, but also if it came after the drop date, there's an appeal process that we've always had around medical withdrawals. And so you contact registration.
And someone says, have the computer stations in the library been reconfigured to provide the 6-foot spacing? So we are definitely working on social distancing and in the computer access to make sure that no one is closer than 6 foot to another person in the library. Someone joined late, so they missed when classes start. Classes start April 13th. Instruction starts April 13th. So Monday, April 13th.
This is Kevin, and for reference, I have put both the COVID-19 website and the Student Services website, pushed it out to all participants.
Okay. If we go back to full operations, but public schools are still not open as these coming in, it's scrolling as I'm reading them, so that's them. And we are not allowed to bring our children on campus. Can those employees still work from home? If you have childcare issues or if you're caring for someone who has been impacted by COVID-19, or you have to be in social in quarantine, please work with your supervisor and human resources to resolve those issues. So we are basically taking these one step at a time, trying to be as flexible as possible with employees, so that we can get people through this crisis to the best of our ability. Someone says, if we're doing hybrid classes, is it going to be all online or will we have to come to school on our scheduled day? It will be all online. We are not having people come to classes on campus. So everything is online.
May I just also say, and this is a good answer for a lot of questions that I see in the Q&A field and that I have tried to answer individually as well when students are asking specific questions about classes they are taking or what's going on in the program. The two very best things you can do are first check the class schedule on the website, because the room field and the notes field are starting to get populated with specific information about what your class is going to be doing. And the second thing I would say to do is to reach out to your instructor for information about what's going to happen. In most every case, things are just 100% online. And there are a very few set of situations, usually because of external program accreditation requirements, that there will be some face-to-face later in the quarter under social distance, if it is safe for us to do so.
Okay. One of the questions that I saw, Dr. Lane, is will part-time faculty be paid during April 1st to 12th before the quarter begins?
So according to the faculty contract, all faculty are starting to be paid on April 6th, and that first week of the quarter is non-instructional time. That is some time for sure that's meant to account for the changes that you're making and the plans that you are making. I will say, with respect to other larger questions about, for instance, work that might be happening during the break between quarters, work that has happened in winter quarter, work that happens outside of the amount of time that would be, the pay you'd receive from this first original week of the quarter, the April the 6th week. AFT is negotiating with administration around how faculty can be compensated for some of this time and energy. And so, I would say be in communication with your union representatives about that. We are trying to work on solutions. But I will say everyone's normal way of being paid with an April 6th start date. That's when you're going to start being paid.
Can you also address the question about getting a refund on fees for science labs and computer labs that someone said they're not going to use, but we...
Sure. This is an interesting question, and I would say to people that it really depends on what the fee was for and how the fee is going to be used. So for instance, it's not automatic that a computer lab fee is going to be refunded, because if the reason that the course that you're taking is using the computer lab is to use special software in the lab, IT is working with us to make it possible for you to access that software virtually. And so you'll still be using the software that you'd be using in the computer lab, and that's what your lab fee is going for. It's to help pay for the cost of that software. So that wouldn't be refunded to you. Another example is with science lab fees. Well, if your science lab class is now going to work remotely, and you are going to either maybe be sent a lab kit to do lab activities at home, or you're going to have a virtual lab, like in an online environment, like in a simulation, your lab fee is actually going to pay the cost of either that lab kit that's being sent to you or that website that you're going to do the virtual online lab in. So no, it's not necessarily automatic that the lab fee is going to be refunded to you. It's going to depend on the situation, what the fee was being used for, and if that fee still has to be used even in an online environment to deliver you the tools and resources that you need to finish the class. So in instances where we don't need to use the fee for anything, that would be refunded, and that will happen actually automatically. But many of these fees are staying on because we still are using them to give you the tools and resources that you need to do the work in the class.
Someone asked about the questions that were sent in advance. Some of you did send questions in advance, and we tried to answer those in the PowerPoint and a discussion that we had. Those questions that were not answered, we will be, if you provided contact information, we will provide you with an individual answer to your question. So some of you asked questions and did not provide contact information, but many of you did, and we will be replying directly to you on those. Someone asked, what is the status on the hiring freeze? Does it apply to all new positions and any exceptions? So this is speaking to the fact that we know that our state is dependent on sales tax, and revenue right now in the state is down. And so we are expecting that we will have a special legislative session to deal with budget issues in our state. And so in anticipation of that, we are trying to be really cautious about hiring any new position. So the hiring freeze does not apply to all new positions because, for example, when we have a Title III grant, which is federal funding, and as part of the CARES Act, they actually just gave us additional funding for that. And so there are positions that are connected to that we will be hiring for. So there will be some things that we have some fixed costs, like security and facility maintenance, that if someone leaves, we're going to have to replace those positions. So just know that we are being very cautious about which positions we send forward, but there will be some very limited positions that are going to be filled as we move forward. And I also answered, I haven't seen it yet, but the question about travel. So as you know, most of us can't travel right now because many of the flights have been canceled. But travel, we are being very cautious about approving travel also. Just because we don't know what the budget situation is going to be like for the campus. So that's not to say that anyone can't travel, but we are being very cautious and looking at every request for travel very carefully. How should we direct students who need technology support, and how can students access the library computer stations? So the front door, there will be one entry door that will be staffed by security. So students will be able to get access through that and to get access to the library computer stations. And for those students who need technology support, such as Chromebooks and laptops, et cetera, and we are asking you to complete the survey that is going to go out. You can also communicate with, if you are in a program, for example, like MESA or TRIO, to communicate with those programs about your needs. Are there other ways? I'm looking to Kevin or someone else to tell me, are there other ways for students to let us know about their technology needs?
Hi, this is Kevin, and the survey is going to be one of the ways. We are going to be working with Info Central to let them know about the survey and know that the survey can be filled out on a student's behalf if there is need. And we're also looking for referrals from faculty who engage with students and find that there is need. So we are trying to cover as much ground as possible in learning what people's needs are. If we are allowed back in the building using social distancing, we are also looking at paper versions of the survey.
Great, thank you. Dr. Harden, one of the questions is, how can I meet my advisor online?
So if you're on Starfish, I mean, you should be able to make an appointment with your advisor via Starfish, but you can also email the advising office. They have a general advising email, and someone will respond. They're monitoring it. So we've always done e-advising, but current students should be able to make an appointment through Starfish or going into MyCentral and make an appointment that way.
Great. And the other question that you may be able to answer us is, how do you apply for the emergency fund? So we do have an emergency process now that's in place, and I'm assuming that we will use the same process that we have been using for students to access emergency funds.
So is it with kind of like the COVID fund that the foundation is running district-wide, or just other emergency funds? Yeah, so Student Support Services, Molly Mitchell's area, manages some emergency funds. If you're eligible for workforce funding through Workforce, Adria, her area can also, those students in those programs have eligibility for their emergency funds. So I think reaching out to Molly Mitchell or Adria Harris would be good to, if you're in Workforce. The big fund that they're raising money for across the colleges, it hasn't been communicated yet how those will be dispersed amongst the colleges and what they can be used for. So it's a little complicated because the need is greater and we're getting requests for thousands of dollars, you know, because of housing concerns. And so we're trying to figure out what are the stipulations around amount and how much can students actually receive.
But we are not going to set up a different process for emergency funds other than those existing. So the money that comes from the foundation will be channeled through those in the same way that we have the funding available from United Way, for example, for emergency funding. And
so much more concise. Thank you.
for our foundation.
Appreciate
So
that.
we are going to use existing structures both for the federal money and for the new money from the foundation. So we will not be creating new processes. And so Dr. Lane, it's one of the questions is about wood technology and nursing for those programs that are having the face-to-face. If they don't, for some reason, if they're not able to do the face-to-face after the 27th, what will happen in terms of tuition and enrollment for those classes?
Those are actually going to be different conversations for each of those programs. The very best thing to do is to have the conversation with program faculty. Program faculty are creating their plans this week and next. We are populating information in the class schedule. I will say we are trying to minimize the idea. That would really be the last resort, that we would start the quarter and get part of the way through and not be able to finish the class. It might be the case that in instances like nursing, say, where a certain amount of clinical time must happen and that isn't going to be able to happen face-to-face, that you would be able to do that completely virtually and complete your sort of class requirements or class outcomes. There are some programs where we imagine face-to-face clinical requirements, particularly those that are connected to some external program accreditations, might not be able to be done this quarter if social distance continues a really long time. And in that case, what program faculty are most likely doing is looking at the right way of grading a student at the end of the quarter. Would it be an incomplete with some leftover hours to have to do in the summer? There are some other grading options. We're always trying to look at the ones that won't impact a person's access to financial aid negatively, or limit their ability to have satisfactory academic progress. What I do know is happening is that in all of those situations, program faculty and program deans are working with the registrar's office and the financial aid office to devise the right way in that worst case scenario to make sure that a student wouldn't be negatively impacted if they needed to keep registering for classes going forward. But it will be specific to your program what happens, really based on the requirements inside your program.
And Dr. Lane, can you also answer the question about if a course has an online Canvas platform, can we expand the number of online class spots available, because the online classes have long waiting lists?
I haven't physically seen that question. I might need to look at the question to understand what they're asking, but I would say we are monitoring waitlists and we are opening online sections where there is waitlist. The number of students in a class is actually really set by our curriculum approval committee. Every course outline indicates the maximum number of students that can be in a course. And the maximum number of students that can be in a course is also part of what is bargained through the collective bargaining agreement with faculty. So we don't just willy-nilly change the number of students that can fit in a course, even when it's online. What I do know that all programs are doing is they're monitoring their wait lists, and when we can open an additional section and we have a person staffed who can teach it, we're doing so.
Yes, thank you. That answers it, because it does, although it's online and you could theoretically open it up to hundreds of students, that would be an increase in workload for our faculty. So we want to make sure that we're not overwhelming faculty. And as I should tell my students, you know, they turn in one 10-page paper, but if I have 35 students in class, I have to read 350 pages in a week and get graded back. So the number of students in a class, even if it's online, is a workload issue for students. Dr. Lane, maybe how do I find out if my class I'm registered for needs a book?
I don't know that. That's not a question I normally would take. I don't know.
Well, I would say that usually if you're looking at a course, the list of books is attached to the course, there's information about it. But if you're interested in a course and you don't know and you can't find whether a book is required, you can always contact the faculty for that. And it's also on the bookstore website. Maybe there's a list by course there. The culinary program, and it's been canceled until fall. Well, I have to re-register for classes again. And also, if I see financial aid, will my application be first in line for fall? So that is a combination of Dr. Lane and Dr. Harden.
Yeah. The very best, I mean, for a lot of program specific questions, we are not going to have all of the details. You're going to need to talk to the division office or the program faculty to know some of the details, because there are things that are very different. What I can tell you is, you know, do you have to re-register? Yes, because we are automatically dropping students, you know, whose courses have been canceled. My sense is, do you have to reapply? Probably not. Will you be first in line? Probably so. But the Culinary Academy would be the one to tell you the answers to those questions. There was another set of questions around nursing. My understanding, again, you're going to have to talk to the nursing people to know exactly what's happening, but we are still planning to do that enrollment process into the nursing program and to start in the fall with the normal acceptance of all of the nursing cohorts. There isn't a plan in place to put any of that on hold.
And the financial aid question, Dr. Harden, about reapplying and the timing on that?
Yeah, so I don't know if they'll be first in line for fall. That's a question I need to get clarified with Kyle, the director. Oh, look, he just texted me. He's on the call. So thank you, Kyle. So they would have to reapply for I mean, there's not a rollover into the next year for financial aid.
Okay.
Students still have to reapply.
There's also a question about when will financial aid be dispersed?
Sure. So financial aid disbursement will start on the 13th.
Great, thank you.
There's also several people have reached out, thankfully, with information about the bookstore that says, go to the Seattle Central Bookstore website to find out if the section you're enrolled in has books. Thank you to Rebecca Leslie for that piece of information.
Okay. How can students get help from the Writing Center?
Sorry. Am I there? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So tutoring in the Writing Center and Learning Support Network is still offering, or had been offering, remote tutoring and Writing Center. So if you go to the Student Services web link that has all of the contact information under the COVID announcements, then it'll show you how you can contact Learning Support Network and the Writing Center.
This is Kevin again. For our audience, I have added the bookstore and the student services link into the chat.
A question is, are we still able to pay tuition now or tomorrow? And the answer is yes. If you're paying online, you can still do that. And we have extended we're not dropping people for non-payment as of yet. So yes, if you're still interested in register for spring quarter, you can still pay tuition. So this is a question for Dr. Lane. Should we anticipate more cuts to classes being offered in spring, or are faculty okay to start prepping for their assigned classes?
I do think for the most part, cancellations have been processed for spring. I would say if you are teaching a class section and it has fewer than 10 students in it, have a conversation with your dean just to make sure that their timeline for cancellations has passed. I did ask deans to be very cautious about sections with less than 10 students, which doesn't mean that everything above 10 students runs, which doesn't mean that nothing with fewer than 10 students doesn't run. There are a lot of factors that we're looking for, particularly if the course is required for a person to be able to complete a degree or certificate. But I think for the most part, cancellations have happened, and we are running sections with lower than typical numbers of students in them, just because we think that enrollment is really uncertain, and particularly if any dates get pushed back, if students are able to get back on campus even with an appointment, or with a appropriate social distancing to do any business on campus, it might change the way that enrollment looks for the spring. So we want to build in the idea that we can still continue to accept students. And I did have a question in the Q&A list. Can I still register for a course for spring? Absolutely, you can do all of that online. And I copied one more time the list of programs and services and how you can do any of the things that you have sort of business needs for, whether it's admissions or cashiering or enrolling, any of that.
Okay. And where can students find faculty contact information if they have registered for a course and they want to contact that professor?
There is a directory.
I just
Info
posted
Central
the
can
link.
also help. I do know that there on the website there is a directory that you could look a person up in, and you can also reach out to Info Central. They can help you.
Sorry, Bradley. I just posted the link to the directory.
Okay. I need to have administrative access to computers. Is there a loaner laptops available for that? Anyone who, any staff person who needs access to computers should be working with their supervisor to identify that need. And then we have been prioritizing those folks who need technology to work remotely. So please work with your supervisor on getting access to computers if you need it for your work. And the question, some of us are being asked to come back the beginning of the week of the 20th to finish up tests that we didn't finish from last quarter. Is that allowed, since we're saying the return date for face-to-face is the 27th? And I would say that no, that is not allowed until the 27th. So you would need to work with the individual faculty members on that, but we have very limited instruction that is taking face-to-face, and that list has been approved by the Vice President for Instruction. And so all other instruction should be remote instruction, online instruction, and we should not be coming back to campus except for those limited functions before April 27th. A question, Dr. Harden, about are we still paying student services fees that are supposed to cover things like the gym? And is the gym going to be available for homeless students who need to use the showers?
So yes, we're still collecting SNA fees for things like Mitchell Activity Center, and the staff there are working on kind of remote exercise fitness options and kind of building those out. So our sense is that the gym or the MAC is not going to be open for showering.
Great, and maybe we can identify some other resources that might be available for students, homeless students who need to take showers, and we can put that up on our website.
Sure.
Okay. Will current work study options remain? And I would say yes, and we actually have expanded capacity with work study with the new CARES Act. So if you're a work study student, you should be able to continue to be a work study student.
Yeah, so Kyle and I were talking about this. So there's more guidance kind of coming out today, to your point, Dr. Sheila, and they're planning on releasing some more information tomorrow. There isn't a plan to be more restrictive than what we currently have. And so just going through all the information and figuring out how that aligns with what we're doing. But some more information to come on that.
Okay. And so just recognizing the question, someone said, if my question isn't getting answered, is there another place to post it for later evaluation? Yes. So the questions that are being asked, we're compiling them and we will put them up on the website later with answers. And as I said, for those of you who submitted questions in advance, and some of them were very specific, so we will be replying to you directly. So that you have it. And that's the other thing. Will the Q&A thread be available afterwards? I don't know that we put the Q&A up on the website, but we will look to see if that can be done as well.
We follow the same process. We copy all the questions from today's session and send those to you and Roberto for distribution in the FAQ on the website.
Okay.
Dr. Sheila, can I back up to the resources for showering or other options for students? So Molly Mitchell, the Director of Student Support Services, texted me. Their resources kind of are up on their website for other options for students and community resources, including showers.
Okay, so that is Student Support Services. So if you're looking for resources for showering, if you're a homeless student, and access to a lot of other services, Student Support Services website has a list of resources available to you on their website. Question, how does this impact Seattle Promise, and will seniors still be able to graduate on time? So from the Seattle College's perspective, this will not impact Seattle Promise at all. We will do all of our programs remotely, of course, and using Zoom and tools like this to get as much of the things done that we need for those students who are entering. Now, whether students will be able to graduate on time, I think that Seattle Public Schools is working to make sure that all seniors can graduate on time. And so we're not expecting this to have a large-scale impact on Seattle Promise.
Yes, and things like Readiness Academy, those milestones will be moved online. Yeah.
I'm supposed to graduate in June, but my classes may go into summer quarter. Should I apply for the Foundation Scholarship? Absolutely, yes. and so apply for the Foundation Scholarship, and if you need emergency funding, and I think that as I said, the normal process that we have for emergency funding is the process that we're going to use to channel all of the new money, both from the federal government and from our foundation. So make sure that you go through that. Someone says, am I the only one who isn't cool with doing a chemistry lab at home? That doesn't sound safe to me. Well, there are lab kits that other colleges and universities across the country have been using for a long time, and they are safe, and we're not going to send you a lab kit that would cause you to set your house on fire or something. So these things are used in online education across the country and are very safe. Dr. Lane, is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
I think with Chem Labs, we're looking to do as much as we can online. And so maybe that wouldn't be one of the labs that a person is sent a kit with chemicals for. That might be something that happens like an online simulation environment. But you can rest assured whatever we wind up doing, it's going to be safe. It's not going to expose anyone to any kind of danger. And it will really provide a high quality learning experience, whether it is through a kit or through like an online simulation. There are lots of colleges around the country that have done this kind of instruction in science labs remotely. So, this is not out of the ordinary.
And while you're there, one of the questions is for labs that are open on April 27th, how will it work before April 27th? So that period between instruction starting and
Yeah.
the others.
Yeah, so even in a lab-based class, there is still a lecture component to the lab-based class. You're not in the lab all the time. And what I have said to other people who have specific questions about their schedule is check the class schedule, get information from there about usually where you would log in. Every instructor is going to communicate with their class before the first day of the quarter, when and how you should log in on the first day. You will likely be doing a lot of lecture the first couple weeks, or theory, in an online environment like Canvas. And then when it is safe to come to campus, that at that point there would be, if there's a face-to-face component, there'd be a face-to-face component after that.
Great. So Dr. Harden, this is a question. How can I test for the placement test if the campus is closed?
So testing is done remote. So we have Alex for math. Is the question specific to math or English?
No, that's testing.
Okay, yeah, so you can go to the testing website and you can still do your remote placement, and testing staff are still inputting scores, and you should still be able to move forward and register or talk to an advisor remotely.
Great. So with that, just know that with the last forum, the questions that we did not get to, we will answer them and put those answers up on our website. I want to thank you all for joining us. We had over 300 people join us today for this forum. If we get more information from the governors about extending the stay home, stay healthy order, and we will plan another forum late next week, or just to keep everybody updated as we get the information. And with that, I will turn it back to Kevin and just say, stay safe and healthy, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Sheila, and thank you to all the panelists today, and thank you for attending. I also want to send a huge thank you to our captioner, Michelle, and our two interpreters, Joey and Amanda. And at this point, we will stop recording and hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.